Okay, I think we're gonna have some folks still trickling in, but I think we are ready to kick it off. Let me see. All right, so good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for our second session of our e-commerce platform comparison. I am Cassidy Delorto Blackwell from the Land Connection, and I will be your host for the series of 4 e-commerce discussions. If you missed us last week, you can catch up on the recording from last week's session, which was all about food hubs. You can check that out on our YouTube channel. We will also be posting the video for today's session on our YouTube channel as soon as we are able. So over the next several weeks, including last week, we are going to continue to compare 3 e-commerce platforms, Food for All, Open Food Network, and Local Food Marketplace. In each session, we are going to be joined by representatives from each of these platforms, and as well as producers that actually use those platforms. So this week, we're going to be kicking off with representatives from Food for All, Pami, Monnette, and Cami Semick. And then we're going to follow up with Carla Falk at Open Food Network, who is joined by Theresa Shumilas, co-owner of Garden Party Flowers in Ontario, Canada. I think they're both zooming in from Canada to join us today. And we're going to round out today's session with Amy McCann from Local Food Marketplace, who is joined by Jeffrey Orkin of Greener Roots Farm, which is a vertical farming operation down in Nashville, Tennessee. So thank you all very much for joining us from across North America today. Before we get totally started, I meant to show you all these people's names and I skipped it, so I apologize for that. Before we get started, I do have a few pieces of housekeeping to go over. I imagine by now, everybody is pretty familiar with the rules of Zoom, but just in case you are not, please do keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. If you have questions during our presentations, please drop those questions into our chat box. If you're having trouble finding the chat box, you can find it by scrolling across the bottom of your screen and looking for that little cartoon word bubble. So please feel welcome to drop questions into the chat box as you have them. And we will have plenty of time to answer your questions. After we'll give each group producer platform pair about 20 to 25 minutes to discuss their platform, and then we'll follow each pair up with about 5 minutes of Q&A from you, the audience, before we move on to the next group. We'll still probably end up with about 20 minutes at the end to answer questions across all the platforms. It would be great to get a sense of who y'all are. So I am going to launch a quick little poll here, little 3-question poll to find out a little bit more about you. It's just the first question is asking you to identify what your role is in the food system, and you are allowed to choose more than one option there. For the next 2 questions, it's one choice only about whether you manage wholesale accounts and if you use e-commerce. Also, if you'd like to just go ahead and introduce yourself and practice out how to use that chat box, you can go ahead and drop your name, organization, or farm business and location, and we'll get an opportunity to know a little bit more about who's in the room. I'm going to leave that poll up for a little while here, so please do keep filling that in. I am joined today by Jacqueline Evers, who is managing our technology and monitoring the chat. Both Jacqueline and myself work for the Land Connection. The Land Connection is a agricultural support nonprofit organization based in Champaign, Illinois, and serving producers throughout our state and the Midwest. And even more broadly through offerings such as this. We offer training, resources, and support to farmers, food businesses, and eaters so that together we may all realize a more just, equitable, and sustainable food system that we know is possible. Please do visit us online at thelandconnection.org. And while you are there, go ahead and sign up for our newsletter. It comes out every week and has a ton of information about farming, particularly in Illinois and in the Midwest, and has a lot of opportunities if you're looking for other trainings throughout our region. I would also like to thank the Illinois Farm Bureau for making this series possible. These 4 sessions that we are offering are part of Illinois Farm Bureau's winter workshop monthly business development series. If you have not been over to their website, please go check it out. They have a lot of good offerings throughout the winter, and you can also, while you're there, maybe look around and see about signing up for the Illinois Specialty Growers Conference in January. It's going to be a hoot. And finally, I would just like to thank the Land Connection's Soil Builder sponsors. So we are very grateful to Compeer Financial and Illinois Farm Credit for supporting our work. So thank you all. And now we are ready for the main event. I can find my way back to Zoom. There we go. All right. Okay, so like I said, we're going to give each platform producer pair about 20-25 minutes to share their experience with the software and to fill in any missing information. The platform representatives are here to help fill in the gaps. We'll follow each pair with about 5 minutes of questions, and once we've heard from everyone, we will spend the rest of our time together just getting questions from the group. I do believe it looks like most folks have done the poll. I'm going to end that and share out our results. As you can see, the majority of the folks we have on the call are farmers, are using Wholesale, and are currently operating e-commerce softwares. So good group to talk to today. So this week we are going to kick it off with Cami and Pami from Food for All to share a little bit about the Wholesale capabilities for the Food for All platform. So I will pass it over to you two.
All right, thank you. Let me pull up our little presentation here. All right, Cami, give me a thumbs up. That look good on your end.
Yeah, I think that you'll want to share it in slide mode. Right now, we are seeing the presenter notes, and yeah, perfect. Great. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'll have Pami introduce herself. Oh, there it goes. So I'll go ahead and talk about Pami while you're getting that set up. And just real briefly, I'm not sure the number of folks who are, that looks great, Pami, who are participating in this session, who had participated in last session, but just a quick intro about myself. So I am the founder of Food for All. I started working and being curious about local food systems in 2015 after having an experience myself as a consumer trying to find and buy from producers around myself in Central Oregon. My career has been spent in technology, and I started working with producers in Central Oregon to better understand what their needs were as it relates to connecting with different types of buyers, whether those are consumers as buyers or chefs or institutional buyers. So Food for All is a technology platform that is focused on really creating more efficient local food systems. So we don't think of ourselves just as an e-commerce platform. One of the key things that we're trying to do with our technology is to give marketing visibility to producers in order to get those producers in front of the buyers. And we're doing that in a way that enables producers to tell their own story without having to give up on price, and so that they can attain the price that they need in order to stay in business and have a sustainable business. So I'm going to let Pami introduce herself as well.
Sorry, I'm having
that's
bandwidth issues, so hopefully this works out all right. My name is Pami Monnette, as Cami mentioned. Yeah, and I just started with Food for All this year, actually. I came from Oregon State University Extension Service. And I was working with Small Farms Program, my own help, Cami with Food for All, and I really feel like Cami said, we try to think of ourselves as more than just e-commerce and real buyers more efficiently. So I'll let her take it over again.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with Food for All is, as I mentioned, we're creating this technology platform that enables producers to sell direct to consumer and sell direct to wholesale buyers. Not only through their custom shopping pages, but also through a network of marketing partners that we're putting together. And with the ability to bring in logistics partners that can then move the food from the producer to the buyer. And what we're doing is we're trying to do this in a way that really creates efficiency for the producer. What we understand now, this is prior to COVID, nearly 70% of producers in the kind of small to mid-scale farm, such as yourselves who are listening today, are selling direct not only to consumers, but also to wholesale buyers. And so we needed to create a platform that enables that producer to have operational efficiency around receiving orders from multiple types of buyers while managing their products, their prices, and their inventory in a single system. And that's what we're working towards today with Food for All. So we have our current product enables producers to sell efficiently from directly to consumers online and through our networked channel of business partners and marketplaces. And we're in the pilot stages of working with distributors and producers in developing the feature set that enables those producers to connect with wholesale buyers. So we're working today with a couple of producers and a couple of distributors who are using our gated wholesale shopping pages in order to take orders directly from different types of wholesale buyers, manage those orders, fulfill on those orders, and then report on those orders. So Pami's going to talk a little bit more about the producer perspective, and then give you a glimpse of the product and the pilot projects that we're working on.
Yeah, thanks, Cami. So now that I'm a farmer myself, I get to experience all of the fun stuff that goes along with that. But I think it's really important that we have a farmer focus first when we're developing these products, because if it doesn't work for farmers, first of all, it's just not going to get off the ground. And so actually, before I left OSU, we had surveyed 120 farmers in Oregon to just figure out, what happened during COVID in terms of marketing and where their, how their markets shifted. And so I know a lot of us heard that wholesale, accounts were lost, but that was definitely, some data that we pulled that said, yes, they did lose these wholesale accounts, unfortunately, during that time. But in general, producers reported increased sales online through online channels, or if they were offering delivery. And 30% of those producers also said they plan to start or expand these online sales. So, rooting a lot of our work in data that's as current as we can is important to us. And a lot of the challenges that they reported were stuff that, I think we can all kind of assume, but, just hitting home that, like, especially the small guys and the small to mid-sized guys don't have the time, the staff, the tech skills needed to manage a lot of these different online programs. And so, something needs to be really straightforward, super easy to use, and basically solve more problems than it creates. And so that's what we're trying to do, is streamline these orders that come in either through wholesale avenues or retail avenues. And, it needs to be pretty customizable, because all of these, depending on where we are and what scale these farmers are at, they're going to have different levels of aggregation and different, delivery logistics to work out. And we feel really that it's really important to have a low barrier to entry into a lot of these e-commerce systems. And what that means for us is offering this at a free level of service. So, for farmers to just get their foot in the door with e-commerce, they're able to do that really quickly with Food for All. And so this is kind of where we're at on the wholesale side of things. As many of you guys know, farmers need to be nimble, right? So the markets shift like COVID or other things, and they need to be able to sell through multiple channels at any given time. And those might vary during the year based on their scale, their region, what their goals are as a farm, or their marketing relationships. And so we think it's really important to have one account that manages all of their retail products and orders, as well as their wholesale products and orders. And so the way it's set up here is that we are managing these marketing avenues at the product level, so that a farmer is only having to manage one inventory. So for example, we have arugula here. They're selling it by the 1 pound bag. They're able to price it differently for retail, price it differently for wholesale, and mark minimum order limits for wholesale, all within one account. And when they go to manage their inventory and they make sales in the retail or wholesale channels, it's deducting from that inventory automatically. So it's fairly easy that once they get all set up, we provide them with a private wholesale shopping page that essentially they can then send out to buyers, and then they just have to log in. They can see all of the wholesale products that a seller has set up, make a purchase. It's all pretty quick and easy as in terms of the checkout. And then when those orders are coming in to the system, sellers are able to manage those orders and invoices all in one place. So they can see if it came from the wholesale side, the retail side, and manage those at the same time. And so, like I said, it's pretty lightweight, and it's pretty, I don't want to say simplified, because we try to it's like a balance between making it really customizable, but also not having so many bells and whistles that you can't figure out, how it works. So we're constantly working to kind of improve the wholesale buying experience. And this is where we're bringing in partners right now. We're working with a local food hub so we're trying to add more features and functions, because we know that a wholesale buyer experience is going to be different than a retail buyer experience. And so how we display the products and how the search functionality, displays products is all going to be different for wholesalers. And so right now, this is kind of what the wholesale buying experience looks like for a private shopping page. So you can kind of see that it's set up here, where the options are, and kind of what a delivery charge might look like. And it'll also display what the minimum order is for wholesale orders, so that they get a quick snapshot. And then they can filter through different product categories, is something that we're also improving right now. And they can also search for exactly what they need. We'll also add a list view so folks can toggle between that. But it's kind of interesting because some of our wholesale accounts that we have right now are actually using this feature set as more of a distributor. So it's pretty cool to see how folks are using it, because there's one group in California that's essentially using it to buy farm fresh produce and then sell it to corner stores, so that convenience and corner stores have fresh produce. And so it'll be interesting to see, how this gets used and how we can, meet the needs of all these unique users. So Cami, I think I'll toss it back to you.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, in that it seems like, every producer and every local food system has just a little bit of a different iteration on how they plan on creating relationships and then using technology to offer products to their buyers. And so one of the things I think that's unique about Food for All is that we're trying to build, as Pami is saying, a very customizable, flexible system, so that our system is able to flex to the needs of, if you're just a producer selling direct to wholesale buyers, then we got you covered there. But we also have the ability to set up wholesale marketplaces. So as a producer, you can participate in a wholesale marketplace and then work with other producers around you in order to enable the beginnings of a local food hub. And as we're going through these presentations today, one of the things that I'd like you to think about is, where is your business in regards to are you in the startup phase, or are you in a kind of more of a mature business that has a high volume of sales? Because I think that if you think about the e-commerce platforms that are presenting today, you might think about identifying what your needs are and where you are in your growth cycle relative to the price point, and then the feature set that's available from each of the different e-commerce platforms. So I would say with Food for All, where we can really help out is with producers who are kind of at that small to mid-size, who are really looking to scale their business quickly and interested in a really efficient and inexpensive way of having an online presence. Now, if you're a more mature business and you've got a high volume of sales and you need a lot of bells and whistles with your online technology, then Food for All might not be your best choice. And there's other e-commerce platforms out there who might meet your needs. But that's something to think about as as we go through these presentations, and kind of matching your needs to the business model, as well as the feature and function set of each of these e-commerce platforms. So with that, kind of tying back into our conversation last week about online marketplaces, we do, in addition to having that gated storefront, we do have the ability to enable these online wholesale marketplaces, that if you are an organization that's looking to start a food hub, our solution set would give you a really easy way to start an online virtual food hub without having to make a huge investment in technology, as well as in infrastructure in order to support the processing and packaging of the orders. So we do have invoicing capabilities, and of course, everything that that is within the platform is in real time. So you're seeing the real time orders, and you're able to report on those orders. So Pami, I think we can advance to the next slide. Yeah, so if you do have any questions about Food for All, about our wholesale capabilities, or about our online virtual food hubs, please feel free to reach out to Pami or myself. And we are, as we said, we're actively adding features and functions to our wholesale feature set, and we're working with pilot partners. So if you'd like to be a part of that pilot program, we'd be more than happy to talk with you.
Yeah, Cassidy, I don't know if you want to take questions at the end, or we'll just field them as they come in chat, but thanks for having us, you guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Let me see. Let's see if we have any questions. Thank you both, Cami and Pami. That was very informative. If anybody has any questions specifically for Pami and Cami, please feel welcome to drop those into the chat box right now. This feels like a really excellent opportunity to make requests for the things you want to be seeing in a software, because they're building it right now. So if there's anything you've been missing, all right, you can all keep thinking on those ideas. And if you have questions, we will continue to have plenty of opportunity to ask and answer those. So if something comes to mind during our next one, feel free to just drop it into the chat and we will circle back. But let us move on. Our next presenters are going to be from Open Food Network. So please join me in welcoming Carla Falk, representing Open Food Network, along with Theresa Shumilas from Garden Party Flowers.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Cassidy. Thanks for having us here today. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Yes, hello. My name is Carla Falk, and I'm with the support team at OFN Canada. And I'm here today presenting with Theresa Shumilas, who is also with OFN Canada, but she also sells wholesale using the platform for her farm, Garden Party Flowers. So first off, I was just going to go into a little bit more about the platform, and then I was going to pass it to Theresa so she can talk about how she uses the wholesale features I talk about in her business. So as Lori mentioned, I think last session, the Open Food Network is a value-driven nonprofit that has instances or kind of sister organizations all over the world. I like to think of it as kind of a large collaborative project to create tools for farmers and producers to sell their products locally. Many of the people who work at OFN are very passionate about local food systems, and they also use the tools themselves. That's how I myself came to the Open Food Network. I run a farmers market in my community, and with the pandemic, we needed to go online, and we went online with OFN. And I liked learning about what OFN was doing so much that I started volunteering with them last fall. And then I was excited to join their support team this past spring. So now I'll talk a little bit about the platform. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what it looks like to start selling on OFN. And it's really quite simple. You just need to register your enterprise or your business. You list your products, you set up payment and shipping methods, and then, simply you can just open your shop then. So what that looks like at the back end, those steps are kind of also, I like to think they're simply in order too. So if you look at this screenshot, if you look at the blue banner and you start at the left side, in the dashboard, that's where you would edit your profile details. So you can add, about your business, any pictures or links to your website, social media. And that's also where you would add payment and shipping methods. And then if you move on the blue banner to the right, you go to products, you add your products. And then after you've done that, you keep moving to the right, you go to the order cycles. Order cycles is where you open your shop. So an order cycle is basically determining when your shop opens and closes and what products are in your shop. And then once your shop is open, you start taking orders, and then you can continue to manage your shop through this screen, and you can manage your orders, get reports, manage your customer list. So I really like the way it's set up. I think it's very intuitive. So now I'll just talk more about what it means to sell wholesale on OFN. First, I wanted to mention that there's lots of flexibility within the platform, and this allows for some really nice features for selling wholesale. Another point I wanted to mention was it's really set up to sell through multiple sales channels at once. So just like Food for All, you can sell wholesale, but at the same time it's set up, you can sell retail, and you can also sell in networks. So have your products sold by another hub or market or however you want. So one of the ways this is accomplished is through the order cycle. You can have order cycles, multiple of them open at one time. So that's basically like having multiple shops open at one time. So in this example, I have, a wholesale and a retail shop open, and they could have different products and different parameters for each one. Another feature that OFN has for selling, that's helpful for selling wholesale, is inventory. The inventory tool allows you to change the prices and the quantities for your different order cycles. So if in that past example, I had a retail and a wholesale order cycles, they could each have different prices for the products, and they could each have different quantities of products available, and they all draw on one common inventory. Or in Open Food Network, it's called on hand. So you can see here, this screen allows you, in the back end, allows you to adjust the price and the on hand quantities. I think Theresa is going to go into more details about how she uses the inventory tool. And then we have tags. Tags is something you find in a lot of places in the platform. You can find them in the shipping methods, the payment methods, order cycles, and in the inventory section. And those tags correspond to tags that you would have with your customers. So, and they're basically a system for giving certain customers or certain customer groups certain options that only they can see. So you might have a certain payment option that is only available to a wholesale customer, like pay at the end of the month. Or you might have certain products that are only available to the wholesale customers you have. Like if you sell, for example, tomatoes in different quantities, maybe the bushels are only available wholesale. That's just one way you might use tags, but there's lots of variations that you could use them for. Okay, another thing that OFN has is the ability to set up standing orders, or what is termed subscriptions, in the Open Food Network. And this is just basically a way to have automatic orders go through, which can be really helpful to get customer loyalty and repeat business. So if you have a wholesale customer that wants to make the same order every week or bi-weekly or monthly, you can offer this service to just have it go through automatically. And once the order cycle opens, their order will be placed. And it's just a really nice feature that you can offer to a wholesale customer. In Canada, a lot of wholesalers are flower farms. And so maybe they have a florist that regularly wants to buy a certain quantity of flowers or stems each week. So this would be a nice feature for that. So last, I just wanted to talk about another nice thing that could be used for wholesale is the customer account management. And so any of your customers, retail or wholesale, can log into their own account and they have their own dashboard where they can see all their past orders. Like you can see here, you can see how much each order, the total was, if it was paid, and then you can click the view button and see the actual order and what products were ordered. And then in this dashboard, if you go across the top to a different tab, you can also see a running balance that that customer would have with each shop. So this is really handy if, say, you have a wholesale customer that just pays at the end of the month, they can see what their balance is at the end of the month and know how much to pay. So that was my quick overview of some of the features that can be handy for wholesale. I was going to hand it over to Theresa now, and she could talk more about how she uses it in her farm. And just here's some more info if you want to go to each of the websites for OFN Canada and OFN USA and our support emails. And I'll hand it over to you, Theresa.
Thanks, Carla. Carla, do you have the slide that has my little business? Oh, perfect. I know this looks a little crazy, but what I wanted to start with was just outline how Garden Party sells and what all of our sales channels are, and then I'll concentrate on the wholesale. So every little area you see on this picture is a shop on OFN, a separate shop, and they're all linked to one Garden Party Flowers enterprise and product list. And so when we say flexibility, we have the flexibility to put different products at different prices in any shop, basically. And not only different products and different prices, but different stock and inventory, and also to accommodate different payment methods, different delivery options, delivery days, etc. So I sell two different ways: retail. I have a shop that is open all season for pick your own, etc. And I sell do-it-yourself wedding flowers. And then I have a pop-up shop that is basically a plant sale in the spring and a bulb sale in the fall. And so those are retail pricing. But then the rest of my operation is wholesale. And I would say 80% of the revenue at Garden Party comes from wholesale. Sorry. So there's several ways I sell wholesale. The first is I work with other flower farmers to place collective orders with them. So in this example, flower farmers are my wholesale customers. So this is a shop that is actually selling the inputs that farmers need. So the farmers are the buyers, not the sellers. And we do this because in Canada, we're trying to grow the local flower movement, but buying plugs, which are like little plants, and other inputs is very, very challenging because we just don't have the population base to attract that kind of industry. Most of those suppliers are in the US, and it's very expensive for us to pay for shipping individually. So through this shop, we collectivize our purchases and our shipping and so forth. So one example of how I use wholesale is to actually buy the inputs for other flower farmers that other flower farmers are needing. It's kind of a unique circumstance. I don't think we have any other cases like that where the flower farmers are actually buying inputs in an input shop on Open Food Network. Most of my other wholesale relates to designers or shops that sell to designers. So I do two different things here. I run my own designer shop as well as a designer CSA on Open Food Network. And so that's where designers in the area I'm in, which is I'm about an hour and a half west of Toronto. Designers in my area order online, and they have a special shop available to them. They're tagged in that shop, so nobody else sees that store but them. They have specific prices, and they have a specific assignment of how much stock is available for them to buy. And the reason I do that is because the other way I sell wholesale is to marketplaces. So you can think of OFN not just as one marketplace, but it's a marketplace of marketplaces where any enterprise, no matter how small you might start, can end up running your own marketplace quite easily. When I started selling on OFN, all I did was a pop-up plant sale. That was how I started, and now I have all these different shops. So you kind of grow into the features that are available. So some of these marketplaces, so along the right there where you see Buyers Pass, Local Flower Collective, and so forth, those are all marketplaces that I'm not just the only supplier. There are many suppliers in each of those stores. And so I don't do anything to manage those stores. The manager manages them. I'm just a supplier, but I do control my price going in, and I control whether or not I need a transportation fee, for example, to get my products to the marketplace. And in OFN, I don't pay anything as a supplier of those marketplaces. So it's always the seller who pays in Open Food Network. And often the seller passes that cost on to the consumer and collects it in a fee. OFN has quite an advanced fee structure, like to how you can charge fees to other people. And so they often do that to cover their costs. So it ends up that the producer doesn't pay either. But in these marketplaces, the one thing I wanted to point out is that whether you're selling retail or wholesale, you can kind of imagine 3 steps from Open Food Network. So if you look at that Buyers Pass marketplace, Buyers Pass is just, I don't know why they call it that. It's a name that means something in Toronto. This is a store in Toronto. So basically my product goes into the Buyers Pass store. The Buyers Pass store then supplies my product to 2 other stores, Corner Store 1, Corner Store 2. And then Corner Store 2 actually has 3 pickup points. So you can see like my product's traveling. And through all of those steps, we have full transparency back to me. So in all of those stores, it's branded as my product. And in all of those stores, it's just a click away from all the details about who I am and how they can reach me, how they can verify, you know, if the product's organic or whatever. The verification details are all posted on Open Food Network as well. So these marketplaces are the main way that I sell wholesale. And it's interesting because you can imagine, if you kind of zoom out from this picture, that all the other flower farmers who are supplying these marketplaces have a similar kind of picture to this picture on their OFN network. So you kind of understand why we call it networks, because it zooms out into a spider web kind of looking thing, right? All these different nodes are just shops and everything is connected, and you are simultaneously seller and buyer, depending on which shop and which role you're in. So a lot of the features that Carla outlined, I use in these shops. I use inventory because if I didn't, the Toronto shops, which open a day ahead of my local shop, they would snatch up all the good stuff, basically, because there's so many more buyers there. So I reserve for my local florists quality product in inventory for them. All of these shops use the customer accounts features, and the designers don't know what they would do without that, because they're so busy. I mean, these are young women running enterprises too, and they're so busy, they need a place to go where all their accounts are being managed, where they know, well, oh yeah, I paid $200 when I checked out, but then I added things onto the order and I forget how much I added. And oh yeah, I sent something back because the quality wasn't good and it got taken off the order and I lost track of where I am. And can you send me another invoice? So nobody has to ever resend an invoice, which as a farmer is just like heaven. So I never have to send an invoice at all. People place an order, they get an order confirmation automatically. I get a confirmation automatically. If I change their order, I just hit a button and resend it. they have a written invoice, I can resend the invoice if they need, or they can get it from their account without me. If I change the invoice, I just can resend it and re-notify them. And if the invoice is paid, it automatically becomes a receipt. And so then they have the receipt. So they can use a report to run their year end so that all of their year end purchases from us are in one place, and including the tax. I don't know how big of a thing that is for some of you folks, but here it's like really important to keep it separate because it needs to be claimed and declared separately. And so in OFN, globally, we have in a recent piece of work updated all of our tax code. And so now it's quite possible to ship across any states and have the right taxation happen. Same as in Canada, I ship bulbs across Canada and it automatically calculates the appropriate taxes and so forth for me and keeps a record of what I have to deduct and what I have to submit and so forth. So that's another real helpful feature, the customer accounts. The reports in OFN are extensive. Everything downloads as a CSV file. And we're just doing a piece of work where you can also download as an Excel file and as a, what's it called, LibreCalc, the open source spreadsheet program. So there's extensive reports, and I find that helpful. And then yes, Carla mentioned standing orders. Standing orders are really big. Often with wholesale clients, they know that they want you know, a bucket of greenery every week, or they want a bucket of greenery and a bucket of feature flowers every week or whatever. And if we place a standing order for them in OFN, that order processes in the background automatically. Nobody does anything. It hits their credit card automatically and pays it automatically and so forth. And then it just shows up in my pick list and in my pack list. So it's a really handy feature for anybody who has a regular kind of thing going on. I'm not sure if there were other things we can talk about, but in Q&A, maybe I probably forgot some things, but I think those were the highlights that, oh, one thing I don't think Carla mentioned that I use a lot. In OFN, you can save a set of terms and conditions, basically a document you write that is presented to your buyers at checkout, and they must agree to them. You probably see this on other e-commerce sites, agreeing to the terms and conditions. It's really helpful. I find if you're running a CSA, I run both a wholesale and a retail CSA of flowers too. And it's really helpful to have a document that goes through all the details, what people are agreeing to, you know, what happens if we get a major rainstorm like we're having in BC right now, and all the flowers are gone. Do they get their money back? So all of those kinds of details that you often write when you're preparing a CSA. And then what happens is when the customer checks out, they can't check out until they agree that they've read and agree to the terms and conditions. And then if you change the terms and conditions, it's automatically presented to them again anytime you change it. So that's another really useful feature, I think, for wholesale accounts to just be clear about the various terms and so forth. I think I'll stop there. I'm probably out of time, and then I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Theresa and Carla. Do we have any questions from the audience? We still have a shy group here today. They want to get all the details before they jump in. I think we will keep moving on and keep waiting for your questions. Also, I don't know, Cami and Pami, if you happen to notice Amy's comment in the chat box about being a pilot program with Food for All. Just wanted to point that out to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep,
Thank you,
we're in
Cassidy.
touch.
Okay. All right, so we are chugging right along, and we're ready to meet our final presenters. We have Amy McCann from a local food marketplace and Jeffrey Orkin from Greener Roots Farm in Tennessee. You are welcome to take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. And thanks also to our other presenters here. It's great to be a part of these kinds of sessions and hear what people are looking for and things along those lines. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It will probably take a moment for me to get where I belong here. Okay. I think, okay, there we go. Awesome. Yes, thanks so much, Cassidy, for organizing this. And thank you, Jeffrey, for joining me. I'm excited to hear what Jeffrey has to say. I always enjoy conversations with Jeffrey. We've had many of them over the years, but I have this slide up here, so you have our contact information. You'll see this information again. If anything that we're talking about today you want to dig into further, since it is just a kind of short session, certainly there's going to be lots of bits and pieces that you that we're not going to be able to share in every last detail, but we're going to hopefully be able to give you a good broad brush understanding of the wholesale capabilities of the system. Since there are quite a few new folks here on the session, I am going to do a little bit of an introduction about us. And then we'll do a real short live demo, and then I'll turn it over to Jeffrey to talk a little bit about how Greener Roots Farm uses our platform, and then of course we'll do questions. So we started the company back in 2009, so we've been around a while. Myself and my business partner started it to help relocalize our food system, and really supporting small farms to be profitable through technology. And of course, one thing sort of leads to another, and here we are in the year 2021, and supporting about 350 food hubs and markets around the US and Canada, and over 12,000 farms and producers. So lots of volumes of sales going through the platform in a variety of different business types, from food hubs to producer cooperatives, even a number of farmers markets and other online markets. And then of course, also individual farms and producers, all utilizing the platform. They use it to sell everything, from wholesale, which we'll talk about today, but also retail, CSA, as well as their in-person sales. So literally all of their sales channels through the entire platform. So you can have a unified inventory, unified reporting, etc. So you'll hear that a lot about the integration of those sales channels, and we do it at a very deep level. It's not just a price list for each of your customers. It goes down to how they pay, when they pay, what the payment terms are, what their order minimums are, when they can get delivery, pickup, etc. Literally that entire relationship is built into the system so that it reflects how you do business with your customers. We also offer a customized buying experience for each of these different types, and not just price and what products they can buy, but also what the visual shopping experience is like, and all of those other aspects of the checkout and buying process. Our platform is really scalable. We work with lots of startup farms, startup food hubs, all the way through those that are quite mature, pushing millions of dollars of products through the system each year. The big benefit of that, of course, is that as you scale your business, you don't have to invest in a new system that serves your needs as you grow, which saves tons of time, energy, and challenges with getting customers onto new systems. Just a few points about us that we think are unique. One is that it's a proven and comprehensive platform to meet all of the needs of all these different ways you might sell your product. It is entirely white label, so you're not going to send anybody to local food marketplace. In fact, your customers probably will never even know about who we are or that we even exist. They'll just assume you have a shopping page that they can order on, like any other online retailer might. We think that's a really important piece because it really helps you build your brand instead of trying, confusing customers about, oh, go to local food marketplace and place your order. It's like, no, you go to your own website, and we just so happen to provide all that infrastructure for you. We also think it's important that you own your own data and your web presence. So this is a really important point that is, we are all seeing the effects of having our information, personal information, business information out in the world. We take that really seriously, the security and the data ownership of that information. And we also are not charging percentages of sales or transaction fees. We think that's really important, particularly for a wholesale sales buying experience. Most wholesale buyers won't even pay for a delivery fee, let alone paying for transaction fees. Anyway, we're not adding any percentages of sales or any transaction fees to the mix. You are totally in control of what your customers pay on the invoices that you send to them. Okay, I am gonna pop over quickly to my demo shopping experience here. This is our demo site. It's obviously if you were one of our customers, and I'm not sure if Jeffrey's going to have us go to his site, but anyway, this is would be branded and colored, and all the information would reflect your brand. When those wholesale buyers log in, I'm going to just take us to this part of it first. They see the shopping delivery days or pickup or whatever the options are for them to receive their order. So it's always clear when they have to place their order, what's the deadline, and when they can receive it, what options they have. And so they can go ahead and put items in their order that they wish, just like you would in any online shopping experience. One of the really cool things that we offer here that's super popular for wholesale is a different view. We call that the list view. It allows them to see the information and just the information that they need, what you have remaining, how much of each product, and all the different ways they might be able to purchase it and build that order accordingly. Okay. Lots more in here, but just wanted to take a quick peek at that shopping experience. On the back end side of things, we have a full dashboard for you to see kind of this sort of your compass of how things are going for the week, for the year, and things that you might need to pay attention to. Any unconfirmed orders, what your margins are, if you have some big accounts receivable. We're giving you visibility of all these details, so it's actionable and easy to see, and it's kind of right in front of you on a daily basis. In terms of those products, making them available to different buyers, you can sell your products in as many ways and in many product units as you wish, and that product can come from an inventory that is shared for all of those selling units. We have other products for meat and other sort of produced products as well, but this is really popular for smaller producers where the inventory is shared across units. And then within each of those units, I can choose to hide that half-pound bag of arugula, for instance, from my wholesale buyers, because I don't want them to buy that. And I can have as many price levels as I want for wholesale, because in most cases, as you add more wholesale buyers, your relationship with each one of them is going to be a little bit different. For the most part, you're not going to have just a single wholesale price and a single retail price. As those relationships develop, you'll have different rules, different order minimums, different pricing, etc. And hence the reason why we offer unlimited price levels. So you can set up as many as you want. You can also override the standard pricing that the system will put in based on what your target margins are for these different products. And, I can say, no, not this week. I'm just gonna, update my price to distributors for that organic arugula, and that will automatically take effect immediately. And only distributors will see that price. Okay. A couple of other things over here in accounting. We have things like accounts receivable, and I'm skipping over a whole bunch of things here that you would normally utilize, but just really specific wholesale things. You have a full accounts receivable tool built right in here where we see all of our customers, what their aging is for all their invoices. I can receive payments, send statements right from here. In any one of those customers, I can open up that customer's account and see all the orders and how they have so much unpaid orders in place right now. And I can easily send them a statement. I can receive a payment if I've got a check sitting here looking at that. But you see a full history of all of their orders, their payments, and any account credits that they might have. And you can also tweak things about their accounts, so you have full control of their account information, all the way down to helping, getting delivery notes for when you do deliveries to their restaurant. You can get that door code so that it automatically gets to your drivers and the delivery experience, so you don't have any hiccups. We do have features for master accounts and sub accounts, which as you work with larger buyers, it's pretty typical for them to have an accounts payable office, and maybe you deliver to 3 or 5 or 7 of their locations. You can set up a master account, and that master account can pay against all those sub accounts, and you can send statements accordingly, including having different billing details. And as well as payment terms, payment preferences for each of those customers. If they're really getting behind, you can say, normally we don't require a card, but we're going to have you get a card on file, and that'll automatically ask them to get a card the next time they place an order. We can set up recurring orders as well, or you can set up recurring orders for your customers, so that the system is automatically generating those orders for that customer. And so if that's all they want, they never even have to touch the system. They're just going to get that order until, they decide they no longer want it, or you no longer offer it, or maybe it's out of season. And they're real easy to manage and adjust as needed. And then last, before I turn this over to Jeffrey, we have lots of reports. I'm going to just pull up a couple of sales reports, like a sales by customer report. I've pre-filled some data out here just to save some time, where I've filtered for this year. I'm going to compare to last year. I'm looking at a sales by customer, and I'm filtering for my restaurant customers. I can add other customer types to that filter if I want to. But there we go. This allows us to run a report to just see how our sales last year compared to this year for just our restaurant customers. And this, of course, is demo data. So yeah, so we're seeing our totals, but also an account by account number. All these reports are exportable in various file formats. And, maybe you want to see what your top buyers are for, maybe your leafy greens, the top buyers of in the restaurant category, perhaps. And this will allow us to also see that information. I'm doing a comparison. I'm going to turn that off. This allows us to see the top buyers of each product, or actually all the buyers of each product, and how much they have purchased over the time frame I have filtered. So it's easy to see who your top buyers are of each product, exactly how much they've bought of those 5-pound bags of arugula, and how much they've spent on that product. As well as, of course, the previous report of just how much have they purchased overall. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and get Jeffrey up here and take over and tell you all sorts of great things. So Jeffrey, are you ready here?
Yeah, I don't know if I can control the presentation though.
I can for you if that
Okay.
works. Okay.
Beautiful.
Just tell me when to move the next
Yeah.
slide. Okay.
Yeah, so my name's Jeffrey Orkin. Actually, Amy may know, I don't actually know how long we've been using LFM, probably 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. You can go to the next slide because I don't remember what's on it.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, so we started our operation 7 years ago. It started as an indoor vertical farm, and now we have 2 locations in Nashville. So that's a picture of our greenhouse. So we operate a 10,000 square foot greenhouse and then a 6,000 foot indoor farm. We grow herbs and leafy greens exclusively, and then we sell wholesale to grocery stores, restaurants, and then we, thanks to COVID, launched a direct-to-consumer home delivery process, and all of that is managed through LFM. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we distribute wholesale 2 days a week, and then every other week we do homeowner deliveries. And so the platform is really flexible on allowing that to happen. So our consumers can shop pretty much the entirety of a 14-day period for every other Wednesday delivery. And then our restaurants have almost that much flexibility in shopping for both Tuesday and Friday deliveries. And then we are using, I mentioned it here and I'll probably show it briefly on my screen, but we're using an integration that they have with a routing software called Routifix. You can go to the next one. So yeah, I will probably share my screen in a second, but I think that like some of the high level things that we love about LFM, it is, once you spend some time in it, it's a pretty easy platform to understand. It does have a lot of like deep complexities that can exist, but generally you don't have to touch them all if you don't want. And I will say that related to that, their support staff is very responsive and very intelligent about all of the features. So over the years, we've had several kind of very weird things that we wanted to do with the site that they were capable of figuring out how to make happen. And for us, it gives us access to almost literally everything we do operationally in one platform, everything from printing labels to, laying out the route that our truck can most efficiently get product delivered. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so I will share my screen for a little bit.
I stopped mine, so you should be able to.
All right. So like Amy mentioned, the white label, as she said it, that's not my website, greenroots.com. So it is very integrated. So this is just our normal website, and under ordering, we have 3 different options where consumers can access or wholesale people. So as soon as you go to the site, you can see that it directly, like this is LFM, but if you look at the address bar, it still appears to be a Greener Roots website. So it is very integrated. She demoed most of this, but I'll just highlight a couple of things. So we are our own producer. So these 2 producers are my 2 locations. But then the platform, especially when COVID launched and everyone was looking for ways to move product, we teamed up with a variety of other producers who are able to list their product on our site. This is very similar to a food hub concept, with the exception that we don't really allow duplicates. And so I'm not trying to have 2 different pasta people. I have one person that sells pasta and one person that sells hummus and one person that sells bread. And so it's mushrooms and a variety of different things. So this was a way for us to both expand our offerings to our consumers while also making a little bit of money by marking up other people's products. The beautiful thing for them is then they have access to the back end data for sales and that type of thing, which is super useful. And then if I were to, let me go back here, keep typing. And then as she was mentioning, then if I log in as a wholesale customer, they're going to see a completely different site because we are not trying to sell them wholesale pasta. Like the pasta person is already selling directly to the restaurants. And so then they're going to have a completely different shopping experience and have access to different prices and different selling units and all of those things. And then also, I'll just quickly show you. So like our day-to-day, we spend a lot of time. So again, I have 5 full-time staff operating 2 different locations. And so in the software, we're actually set up as a greenhouse as one of our producers, and then as our indoor farm, which gives us access to 2 different packing lists. So on any given day when we are packing products, we can be looking at, okay, like what are the items that are originating from the indoor farm versus the greenhouse is going to have its own separate list. We print labels directly from this that go on all the products. And then as she mentioned, there's a lot of really great reporting. One of the things I did want to show off, so I don't, everyone's market's a little different, but we are one of very few farms that have a large refrigerated truck in this area. And so being able to capitalize on distributing other people's product has been very useful. And then obviously, if you're packing a truck with 5 or 6 different people's product, organizing that is kind of crucial, as well as organizing your route. And so within the software, they have a feature where you can integrate with a software called Routifix. So I'll just show you really quickly what our delivery route looked like today, and then how that integrates. The cool thing about this, so I just load today is what is today? 16th. So we had quite a few stops today. And so we're able to export from LFM all of the sales that we had for this specific day. What is today? Tuesday. So it will export a spreadsheet that then this data goes into Routifix. You can organize your route, at which point you can import this back into LFM, and it organizes everything in order to print it basically will allow you to print your invoices in order of your route, which then makes it very easy to organize the truck. And then a couple of other, there's a Quickbooks integration, which is nice. And then I know Amy touched on it a little bit, but you can obviously do a lot of reporting. So all of our accounting, payment, receiving, statements, invoicing, there's a lot of really nice, like you can customize emails that go to customers to have your logos and all of those things on it. So Amy, what have I not touched on?
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm definitely open to questions, but it seems like a quiet bunch today, so.
Same.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jeffrey and Amy. That was awesome. Yeah, we really are trucking right along. Really open to your questions from the audience, but if there aren't any, I will toss a few out in the meantime. Since I know that all three of these platforms also offer a lot of resources to help folks know how to operate them and also just how to operate sales in general. And I would just be interested to know if any of you provide any specific support or guidance to help producers in understanding how to price their products for a wholesale market and how to work with different distributors at different price points.
Cassidy, I'll start. It's pretty simple. Pricing is pretty regional and pretty volume oriented. And, we see pretty wide ranges of prices of the same product, depending on, who the customer is, where it's going to end up, et cetera. So generally our recommendation is that you get your hands on the close, sort of usually an organic produce distributors list to get a sense on, what the products that you're growing, like, and they're maybe sourcing them from California producers or, wherever, what they look like so that, sort of have a good reflection point. But it's going to be a lot of, I think, expect to do a lot of back and forth communication. And that is, I think, one of the benefits of working with a food hub, and that food hubs often play that role in making those connections for the producers. And maybe that's how it always is, and the value is great. And sometimes producers, as they grow, are able to sort of take that on themselves and are able to do their own direct sales. But definitely it's so regional and seasonal too. So, yeah.
I was going to say that, oh, sorry.
Oh, you go ahead, Theresa.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the same thing. I think much like local food marketplace, Open Food Network is also very community oriented. I think of these two platforms very similar that way. And I think facilitate discussions, but it's really the any kind of a marketplace or hub that I see that happening at. And I know a lot of our larger marketplaces, add something like a Slack channel that is parallel to the marketplace, and all the suppliers are in it, and they talk directly with each other about, I know if I have a new flower, like, black scabiosa early this year in my hoop house, what's the going price? What do people think? And people will tell me. So, but it's regional, it's seasonal, it's volume, and it's quality. And you can't have there's no guidebook that covers all those things all the time.
Yeah, and I was going to say our observations are the same in that it does seem like smaller producers who are selling wholesale for the first time tend to kind of get their ship legs, so to speak, in wholesale by selling through a food hub, a local food hub. And speaking with food hub managers, they're helping that producer figure out what the right price point is based upon the region, the time of year, et cetera. And so, that it seems like that knowledge base is regionally and locally within those folks who are managing food hubs.
Excellent. Thank you all. It does make a lot of sense, right? That a food hub facilitates quite a bit. And I would say they also facilitate a lot of the customer relationship component that some farmers struggle with. I do wonder how your softwares would work to facilitate that customer relationship component, particularly with wholesale customers, if you could give us an insight.
You mean the relationship between like the customer, buyer, and the supplier, or if there's no marketplace in the middle kind of thing, or?
Correct. So yeah, the folks that you were selling direct wholesale to, Like how do you facilitate, how is OFN help to facilitate the
Yeah,
positive
yeah,
loop?
yeah. So OFN uses, I mean, not surprising, we call ourselves network because we use network selling. So when you go to a storefront in OFN, you see a tab that says suppliers, and all the other suppliers that you're connected to are linked there too. And so from a supplier to supplier network, you can organize things that way. I don't know so much that it's supplier buyer, unless that buyer is also buying from multiple OFN suppliers, and then they kind of see each other. I mean, other than direct communication, and every supplier would have their own, you know, like doing newsletters. I mean, I think probably all the platforms you can link to MailChimp or whatever other newsletter program to do your newsletters. And of course, integrations with social media is big. And I have a separate Instagram channel for wholesale and a separate Instagram channel for retail. And I link my OFN store to those. So in that way, I guess there's connections.
Yeah, and I would just say that, you know, any technology really is going to it's going to be complementary to those relationships, the in-person relationships that you're creating between yourself as a producer and then who your buyers are. And so technology can help facilitate the transactions, but not necessarily replace that relationship component.
Yeah, Cassidy, I think when I think about customer relationship management and our customers, I think, and Jeffrey, you might want to chime in here because this is, you do it all the time. I think just, you know, once they are a customer, it's making it really easy for them to know what they're supposed to do, delivering their paperwork to them, their invoices, their, you know, if they have 5 people that need to get copies of invoices, or, you know, making sure all of that is super clear, is super critical. And also creating an option, especially if you have a lot of products and you're dealing with buyers that only buy a portion of the items that you sell, being able to create lists that reflect the things that they buy, or allowing them to create their own lists that they favorite, so that they're, you know, they're not like kind of getting into a big department store every time they're needing to place an order. If they're the dairy buyer or the meat buyer or the produce buyer at a grocery store, they don't need to see the dairy and the meat, you know, they just need to see the produce. And then just streamlining, you know, what their expectations are for, you know, invoicing and all of that. Clear communication, I think, is really important. And then if you are doing the delivery, having a tool that allows you to capture feedback from the customer if it's when you're delivering, because that is like a main point of relationship. When after you start making sales to a wholesale buyer, it's that delivery person is really critical. And so having ways to filter information back and capture details that that delivery driver is hearing about. But I don't know if you had anything, Jeffrey, that you.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to add, like, you know, we had extremely high hopes for LFM in terms of all of our buyers using it. And I will say that maybe 20% of our wholesale customers actively use the site, which is not a reflection on LFM. That's a reflection on how people like to purchase. And so you do have to know your buyers. And we use a messaging service called Slick Text, which every single person on my team has access to. And it's the only way we communicate with chefs. And so in addition to LFM managing our inventory and invoices and distribution and all of that stuff, we send a text message out twice a week to wholesale purchasers saying, like, here's what's on sale, and I would say that, you know, we probably increase our sales every single week by 20 or 30% just from chefs replying to that message and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. So like as easy as the site is to use, and I don't know if it's just location based or what, but I don't think people are accustomed to purchasing food on the internet as much as, you know, shopping on Amazon is a whole different experience than like purchasing the things that you put into your mouth on a website. So it's still like, I think there's some adaptation there that every business has to be willing to be like, okay, like if I want to get the most number of sales, yes, I can push people to the website, but if they're not using it, I have to be flexible to input orders for them. We still get excited when a chef goes on and places an order without even talking to us. It's like, oh, cool, like they use the site. So.
I think that what Jeffrey's saying is my experience too. I had this designer who all season just messaged me on Instagram. Every time I sent out, okay, shop's open, you know, message me. And all season, every week I would say, you know, you can just go order directly. And she never, ever did. And at the end of the season, I sort of did this debrief with all the designers. I said, you know, like, is there something wrong? Could I change the shop? What would help you? And she said, no, I just thought it was nicer. I thought maybe I got nicer flowers if I just, you know, talked to you directly. And it was kind of funny, like you got the same flowers that everybody else got. And I had to input the order on the back end. But I think people are like that. People will contact you left, right, and center, however they want to contact you. And if you want to make that sale, you've got to be on your feet to take it.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent insight. I mean, why does anybody make the decisions they make? It's really difficult to try and figure out what people are thinking a lot of the time. But wow, I mean, also just having to manage all of that communication is a lot of effort when folks could really be making it a lot easier for you and just taking your cues. And I also wanted to, Jeffrey, could you mention one more time what that app you use to text message people was? Because that sounds like a really hot tip.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there, but the one that we enjoy is called Slick Text. And it allows a variety of different features, and you pay based on the number of messages that you're intending to send out. It's intended to be used as like a text to subscribe situation where someone, but the way it is set up for us, we manually add our chefs. And when we add them, they get a welcome text message, and then they have the ability to opt out. But then it basically gives us the ability to send, we type one message with a picture in it and send it to 60, 70 people at a time. And then literally like yesterday, one of our producers had like 7 pounds of habanero peppers, which are like a hot commodity. And within like 3 seconds of the message delivering, I had 4 chefs claiming them. And I'm like, well, somebody already bought them all. So, so it is a very, very useful tool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we are all on our phones constantly, so I feel like a text message is kind of the quickest way to get people's attention.
Yeah, I will say, like, of all of the business decisions I've ever made, not using my personal number is one of the best. Like the fact that it is its own phone number, and I have multiple staff members that can see it. So like, I'm not solely responsible for, you know, knowing that information and sharing it.
That is also an excellent tip. Again, like what Theresa was saying, like, well, all the communication you receive, if you don't respond to it, that affects the relationships you have. And it takes up a lot of time to keep managing all of those pieces of the puzzle. I'm still open to questions from the group. So please feel welcome to ask any. But I do think we'll probably end up wrapping up a little early today. I guess I would just like to know from each of the platforms, like, what do you think is your, like, the feature that you have that makes Wholesale easiest for your users? Like, what's the best thing about using your platform to sell into wholesale markets?
Cassidy, what do you think about letting the people that use it answer that question?
Yes, please.
I'm kind of curious, actually.
Yeah.
I could really quickly say something on that. Specific to LFM, I think that like it is a very robust software that you either can or cannot engage with all of those. But as we've grown and scaled our business and we've had specific problems that needed solved, there almost always seems to be a solution. And then specific to LFM, just because I haven't used any of the others, if there isn't a solution, they're very quick to put it into their production queue. And like, there are multiple things in the software that may have been created specifically because I made some comment about it and like pushed them to be like, hey, this really needs to happen. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but at least from my perspective, it felt like I was the reason that it happened. So it feels good when you like see results happening and adaptations to your needs through a software platform and support team.
Jeffrey, I can attest to, yes, in fact, there's multiple times where we've added things that were your suggestion and probably will into the future as well. So yeah, it is hard to pin down one thing, especially for wholesale, because I think wholesale is kind of, it's a different sort of the sales channel. It's a lot more complicated. The sales channel is a lot more complicated and varied. And there's not like really a recipe you can use for wholesale that, you know, if you go watch enough MailChimp videos and like, you know, all that, you can generally kind of put together a pretty good business plan for a direct to retail experience. And it's just not, it's a lot more relationship based. And so the way you use a platform, I think, will vary. You know, Jeffrey just explained, you know, about 20 or 25% of his buyers, wholesale buyers, buy online. And then we see the other end of the spectrum, you know, for wholesale where, you know, large grocery chains are buying online, you know, in other parts of the country. And it's like, or in just whatever that relationship is, I think it's, you know, how those get developed vary considerably everywhere. And so the flexibility is absolutely critical because you know, Jeffrey's right. Like you can't just, you know, tell your wholesale buyer that's going to spend $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 a week that you have to go online. You're going to just take their order and do the work for them if that's what is needed. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say flexibility and responsiveness, but like, I mean, that's everything because it's changing all the time. And you need to know that the platform is going to change with it, and a way for platform users to be in that community that advances those changes and even has input into those and reviews the code or the tests, the draft features and so forth. I think those are really important elements of this.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, you know, our best feature is the one that we haven't developed yet because we are working really closely with our pilot customers to identify, you know, what those, we have the, you know, a baseline feature and function set and transactioning happening through Food for All for wholesale buyers. But, you know, as Jeffrey was mentioning, that the fact that chefs want to text. So how do we integrate texting as an ordering avenue through Food for All? So those are the kinds of things that we're working through with our pilot customers and, you know, hoping to kind of continue to push forward the capabilities of our platform and meeting the needs of folks who are selling direct to wholesale buyers.
Yeah, excellent point. I would say good advice for all of you and that are listening. I mean, these are three platforms that are very much open to listening and responding to their users and taking your advice and what you feel you need. So, I mean, I think that's definitely a key piece to look out for when choosing anything like this is how are they willing to work with you and customize for you and provide the opportunities to expand on what they are able to offer. We do have a few questions in the chat at the moment. So, so Amy had mentioned that, or maybe Jeffrey had mentioned that local food marketplace can integrate with QuickBooks. Theresa, Carla, does OFN have that capability? Getting some head nods.
Out of the box right now, it integrates with Xero, but we do integrations custom for anybody who needs them. And the way we handle that is because we're a not-for-profit, the first customer who wants the integration, we treat like a guinea pig and you get to use it for free till we all know what we're doing. And then we make it available at cost to run to anybody else. So far in Canada, we don't have a QuickBooks person who's our guinea pig. We've actually been asking our users saying, okay, who's got QuickBooks and wants the integration? Because we're anxious to do it. So, but yes, we develop all those integrations custom and then make them available at cost to people.
Yeah, and for Food for All, so our sales and accounting reports are downloadable, just similar to Local Food Marketplace and Open Food Network, into a CSV file that can then be uploaded into QuickBooks. But we are adding a QuickBooks integration in next year. So.
Awesome, thank you. And the second part of that question, which I see Amy has answered here in the chat, is somebody's getting deep in the tech and wants to know about what operating platforms are each of them built on. So yeah, I see that LFM has a SQL database with a variety of other pieces. That is a language that I do not speak.
I'm not able to answer that. Sorry. I think we use React because it rings a bell to me. And I know that the coding language is Ruby on Rails. That's as far as I go. Sorry.
Yeah, and Food for All, we're using so AWS is our hosting environment, Angular JavaScript is our front end, and then we're using a MySQL Maria database.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you to Ja for wanting to get into the weeds. It's always interesting. I do notice that Amy has put a few comments here about Mercer County looking to start a food hub and kind of lamenting, like, where do you start? I do believe that is a question and conversation for a much bigger time, I believe. How do you start a food hub?
We get that question a lot.
Okay.
Like
I don't need the full.
50 times a year at least.
Right.
And having started a food hub, have a little bit of advice there. We don't run a food hub anymore, but we did start one ages ago, before it was called food hubs. So I personally think that the critical ingredients are having some anchor producers involved. If you don't have those anchor producers, and usually that after you get those core producers in the mix, they will naturally recruit everybody else that you need, because it's like, oh, it's working for them. Okay, I'll jump on board type of a thing. I think business model is really important too. So after you've got, your supply sorted, or at least the base supply, figuring out what your business model looks like, and as minimal as possible, investing in fixed costs. And I'm seeing things here about rural, and that's really important for any food hub. And to try to utilize the resources that are already in place, whether that's using and paying for the truck of one of your producers that already exists that maybe isn't driving every single day of the week. And it helps that producer because it, is, putting more revenue into that truck. And it helps you as a food hub operator in that you're not taking on another monthly invoice of your own that is, sort of a fixed cost, essentially. Similarly with space, if you can find ways to utilize space that are already available versus renting your own space to get started. Until you've kind of proven that business model, I think those things are really important to kind of minimize the risk and maximize the opportunity for success. So
I just want to comment, I don't run a food hub, but I interact a lot with one. We actually used to do deliveries. I guess I sort of operate a food hub, but not really. I think one of the things that people ask about a lot is what the markup should be. And I can tell you from experience that 20% is not enough. And our local food hub has also found that. The challenge is when chefs realize that it's getting marked up 20%, they try and buy it directly from the farmer. And so your market has to be such that you can price it more than 20% more than the farm would, and that not be a problem for your buyers. But I think Nashville Grown, the one here, is maybe at 25%. And I think they probably still even need to be a higher markup than that. It's just hard. There's not much margin. When we do resell some people's product, and when I look at how much money I make off of their product, it is not enough to be worth the time. But I'm not necessarily doing it to make money off their product. I'm doing it to diversify my offerings to my customers. So if I make almost no money off of theirs, that's fine, because then they're coming and buying my stuff more as well. So.
Yeah, and I noticed with Amy's question, Amy, you mentioned that you've got producers and you might have consumers. I guess I would say you probably want to get more clarity around what the market need is in your area. Is it to service chefs and wholesale buyers like grocery stores and schools and hospitals, or is the opportunity to start to sell direct to consumer? And so getting clarity on that, I think, might help you then establish what kinds of producers and what kinds of products you might want to offer within your hub. We're working with an individual who kind of bootstrapped a food hub, and in her experience, she started with more of a direct to consumer channel by offering produce boxes and doing it very simply. So having a weekly pickup for produce boxes, and then she was aggregating the produce from a variety of producers in her area. So, and she operated that using shared space. So she didn't have to invest in physical infrastructure. She actually was, leveraging someone else's space that she used on a weekly basis in order to aggregate the product and then actually have the customers come in and pick up their product. And then after a few years, she was able to make investments in more physical infrastructure and then start to scale her business more to sell direct to wholesale buyers. And so, just kind of thinking through who is your target audience, what's the need in your market, and then how can you start to kind of get a toe in that market without having to make a huge investment in physical infrastructure and technology.
Amy, your best friend on this is a calculator. You want to start running some scenarios really early. If a farmer sells carrots for this much and consumers are going to buy them for this much, how many consumers have to buy the carrots in order for me to make $100? It's sobering. I've run food hubs a couple times, and it's really sobering when you start doing the calculations, because as was said, the margin on food in general, local product in specific, produce even more so, is absolutely not there. And so unless you're in a place where you've got a good customer base and they're ready to go, something has to stretch you through the lean start years, because it's going to be really tough to keep going. We do things where we help buying clubs start on Open Food Network more than Food Hub. So the different twist is a buying club might be a consumer, so not necessarily a business off the start, but a consumer who is interested in helping people at their school or their childcare center or their neighborhood or their church or whatever access local food or specific kinds of local food. And we will pull together suppliers we already have on Open Food Network in that geography together with them and have a conversation about, hey, can we make a little buying club here? And buying clubs don't usually start with the idea of being profit-oriented kind of groups. They're just meeting their family's need and the need of the family down the street. It's more like that.
Thank you all for sharing your insight. That is great. And I do want to, Amy has put some really excellent resources here in the chat. The National Good Food Network, definitely you should get connected with. And she mentioned the LFPP grant program. And Amy, you might also, if you're here, it sounds like you're in Mercer County. If you want to shoot me an email, I'm open as well. I know Cindy Jackson was on this webinar earlier, and she's the new general manager at the Farm Fed, which is going to be a sort of a cooperative minimal processing food hub in Mount Pulaski. And they just, well, they applied for an LFPP grant this go around as well, and maybe able to provide you with some insight on that. But yeah, shoot me an email if you have more questions, and also feel welcome to connect with our presenters. Okay, I feel like I maybe missed something in the chat here, but let me try and go back. Buying clubs can be weekly, but also monthly more. All right, I think that was a specific situation. If we don't have any more questions, I want to say thank you all very much again. It's really interesting and exciting to hear about your experience, and also the insight into how these have worked for you in practice. And just, it's always interesting to hear from producers about how their businesses work. And Theresa, that ecosystem of your channels was pretty awesome to get to look at. So I do want to say thank you very much, Carla and Theresa, Cami and Pami, and Amy and Jeffrey for joining us. I am going to launch a very quick 2-question poll just for you to answer about how we did today. Just a couple of quick questions. So please do quickly click those off and submit it. I also want to say one more big thank you to Illinois Farm Bureau for making this series possible. Please do visit the Live Local, Shop Local website through Illinois Farm Bureau to find out more about the other business development offerings in this series. And also to find out what's going to be on tap at the Specialty Crop Conference in January. We do hope that you can join us again next time. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday, November 30th, discussing once again these same platforms, but how they work for folks that are managing within CSA and subscription selling, which I do think we touched a little bit on today. So I'll be excited to hear more about how that works. Thank you again all for joining us. If you are looking for the recording, we will have it on our YouTube soon, and I believe that Sharon will send you out the recording as well. So I hope that you have a good rest of your day, and please do join us back next time. Thank you all.